We learned this week that the 2024 Paris Olympic Games were not, by golly, going to let down those of us, and we grant that it's a niche audience, whose favourite Olympic event is not the pole vault, or the archery, or the ping pong, or even the sprint canoeing, but the raising of the wrong flag and the playing of the wrong anthem. In the first week of competition alone, we got both. Yes. Well, sort of. We learned during the opening ceremony of an amount of confusion apparently besetting the official announcers vis-à-vis which Korea is which.
Olympic organizers have issued a deep apology after South Korea's athletes were mistakenly introduced as North Korea at the opening ceremony. Both the French and English announcers introduced them as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the official name of North Korea.
Which, of course, brought back gladdening memories of the glorious moment at the 2012 London Games, at which North Korea's women's football team were welcomed, one would prefer to believe deliberately, with a South Korean flag, at which they threw a massive tantrum and refused to come out of their dressing room for an hour. Happy days. And we learned that Paris's Olympic organisers are, or now that they have been set right in no uncertain terms were, equally befuddled regarding which Sudan is which. Ahead of South Sudan's first match in the men's basketball tournament, the South Sudanese were fanfared with this. Which, as any idiot knows, is the national anthem of Sudan.
Oh,
in 2020,
really?
Get on it.
Ridiculous.
Come
That's just
on.
bad.
Is it amateur hour?
Indeed. Instead of this, which is South Sudan's actual anthem. And is, in fairness, not a bad tune, an assessment with which I believe the General Muttered Agreement crew will concur. But we learned in general, and what with one thing and another, that for all the labours, straining and indeed exertions of the athletes competing at the Paris Olympics, nobody was working harder than those professionally preoccupied with apologising for the Paris Olympics. For we learned that in the United States, American conservatives, specifically those avowedly granite-jawed, rock-ribbed American conservatives, always first to sternly admonish that your hurt feelings are unimportant and that their free expression is sacrosanct, had abruptly reversed positions upon witnessing certain portions of Paris's intermittently risque opening ceremony. And we learned that as a consequence of having witnessed such depravity, nobody was now more concerned with hurt feelings and less interested in free expression than Congressman Ryan Zink, Republican representative of the Montana 1st District.
We're not comfortable with watching the Olympics. Disgusting display, dishonorable. We're not comfortable with the woke.
Except, perhaps inevitably, this guy.
I thought that the opening ceremony was a disgrace, actually. I thought it was a disgrace.
The mocking of the Last Supper.
I thought it was
Catholics and Christians across
I thought it was
the globe are outraged.
I mean, they can do certain things. I thought it was terrible.
But we learned that that guy is a potential future lock for Olympic gold in, and bear with us as we undertake a pivot of such grace and audacity that Simone Biles herself would be reduced to awestruck shivers.
Come on. Just get on with it.
In the admittedly unlikely event that freestyle marbles losing is ever admitted as an Olympic event. For we learned that Donald Trump's live appearance before the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago went roughly as well as might have been predicted. We'll be needing that accordion backdrop again to evoke that weird thing he does with his hands while saying words with his mouth, as he did in this instance about his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris.
she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Tough, as they say, crowd. But we learned that Trump's running mate, as of this broadcast, Senator J.D. Vance, had identified a bold new attack line to take against the vice president.
Kamala Harris is a phony who caters to whatever audience is in front of her.
Which is fine talk from someone who has changed his name 4 times and became famous positioning himself as the voice of rural Kentucky while living in small-town Ohio, and who once described Donald Trump, for whom he is now abjectly stumping, as, quote, a morally reprehensible human being. But sticking with the subject of excruciating contortions and returning to the Olympics, and that right there is a brilliantly stuck landing. We learned that Italian gymnast and 2024 silver medalist Giorgia Villa has one of the more niche yet more charming sponsorship arrangements enjoyed by any athlete, specifically with cheese, even more specifically with a particular cheese distinctive to her country, wheels of which have featured frequently in her promotional photography, an arrangement for which she has doubtless been grateful.
Oh no.
Wait, there's more. It is, as of this broadcast, maddeningly unclear whether or not the arrangement is ongoing, prompting speculation that she has rethought the propriety of athletes taking the lucre of Big Palmer. And if you think you're getting an apology for that, you must be new here. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Mueller.